Okay, Gary. Well, I spent a couple hours trying to find the tools and whatnot so that I could respond to your video with your video. I started watching and realized, Jesus Christ. So I was just going to watch it and respond to it. I couldn't get the tools working. And, I just don't have... I don't want to make a 2-hour video and then spend 5 hours editing it down. Kind of totally pointless since you're not really making any new points. You say that I'm so egotistical that I haven't absorbed your points, but I have, and I can repeat them to you, and I have, and I've acknowledged, and when I acknowledge, you're flipping me off. And then you're going, why don't you ever acknowledge these things? Right. You call me evil and sadistic, and see, that shows you just don't know what the word sadistic means. Right? I know your system well enough to see what I could be called from your system. I could be called reckless. I could be called foolhardy. I could even, in extreme, be called criminally negligent, because I should know that it's dangerous to put people in the world. But I am not your grandfather. You keep saying I'm responsible for putting 2 people in the world, and those are the only 2 people that I have to answer to on these issues. Absolutely the only 2 people. Alright, now I have made a whole video and comments to you many times about why I procreated and all these things. You said, you should just have to say this. I have said that, and you just keep saying the same thing over and over. Now, I've ended up watching only 10 minutes of your video before I have now given up on any hope of it being productive to go through the whole thing. I'll watch the other 40 minutes, and if you make a new point, then I'll answer it. But I'm not just going to listen to the same old points and same old insults when you can't even use words properly. See, when you say I'm sadistic, you're saying that my position is professed, the stuff that you know about, that you're responding to, that it shows that I have put my children in the world specifically to make them suffer. That's what sadism means. Criminal negligence is a different thing, and the fact that you can't discriminate between those two and yet you think that you are eminently logical, well, that's why I pointed out that, fine, I'm not going to start arguing from authority. It's just when you guys are mocking at the point of, this is obviously a Black Knight type situation, one way or another, and our logic is so inescapable that, maybe you should get some feedback that for somebody that actually works and uses logic carefully, that you look like imbeciles. Okay, it's not very logical, and any logician would know that. And your whole thing about now he's going to move things around. Yeah, reduction to absurdity. What you don't seem to understand about logic is there's a way to judge principles. Since the logic takes the elements of the principles and rearranges them into a conclusion, the way you judge principles is you feed them into an argument and you see what the result is. If the result is ridiculous, then you have reason to wonder about the principle. Why do you have to do that? Well, because the principles are just believed intuitionally. Like you guys thinking that life isn't ever worthwhile, that positive, that's just your intuition. You work from that, fine. But you need to work from that in a lot of arguments and see where they go. I'm sure you'll never do that. I have no reason really to listen to you just, talk this kind of bullshit. I'm not a proxy meant to fill your psychological need to blame somebody for your existence. You are always talking about making someone like you, and you're miserable, and how dare I make people like you have to... Well, if we put people in line and see who wants to live, I mean, that's just one miserable person saying, hey, I don't really want to live. How many other people? 10, 50? How many happy people are you saying that their happiness isn't worthy? You're so miserable, but you're not satisfied you going. You want to take happy people with you. You're trying to make that trade. You're accusing me that I'm trying to give misery for my happiness, but no, I'm actually a person that tries to take misery on myself. You don't think I'm an animal person? My daughter was here and saw you say that, and she's like, what? You seem like one in person. I'm like, well, this isn't in person. This is in YouTube, I don't... I actually take miseries and responsibility on myself in my life. So you can fuck yourself about being sadistic and well, you have to fix the world first. Well, I have spent my whole life doing that, okay? I didn't just set up my own thing. I've tried to make a situation that would be positive to start your life from, okay? It's succeeded in some ways and it's failed in other ways. Things are difficult. Things work out as well. But yeah, you don't know what words mean. You know as much about what logical terms mean as you know about sadism, which is to say, perhaps you understand it perfectly well, but you're just not honest enough to use the words correctly. Whatever. At any rate, you're going to have to come up with something new. Specifically, tell me how if a Nazi kicks a gypsy that he's harassing for no good reason and breaks his toe, how that pain and suffering that he goes through, the Nazi, tell me how that's objectively bad, because I think it's objectively good. 2, tell me how the eggs in a woman's body are not part of her body, you anti-pro-choice motherfucker. That you get to say what happens with those. Those have to be treated as individual people. It's not even at conception anymore, just period. They're potential people that shouldn't be, so... And you think that's fine. Well, you're wrong. You're wrong and you're stupid. Okay, so answer to those problems, specifically the Nazi thing. Tell me how that's an objective bad. If you can't do that, you're the one ignoring it. I paid attention to all your lame arguments. I have nothing to prove in that regard. It's obvious. I understand all your lame stuff. I understand derived energy. You guys don't understand logic. And you're making this compelling logical argument. But don't... By the way, it was funny you said that I would do anything. Change the speed of light. That's funny, because that was the first time you blocked me, is when you changed the speed of light and I called you on it and you're like, so make a big deal out of it, block, block. Yeah, screw you, Gary. You need to grow up. You're not acting on the goals you say you have. You are not acting consistently, and you don't use words the way you mean them. You are saying that I'm sadistic, and yet the elements of this are not sadism. They are negligence at worst. So, yeah. And I did have a nice thought, which is that if all of your fans get convinced not to reproduce, I will thank you for that, okay? If that's how that turns out on my deathbed, I promise I will thank you for that. Cheers.